All right, how about another surf report, everybody? This is a big week, and we don't even have a total solar eclipse yet. Huge week in terms of energies. We have it called, at least so far, the expanding ego and the confused Venus. This report is for the energies expected between April 6th and April 12th, 2023. So let's get started. Get in your stance. We're surfing the cosmic waves. And here's our overview, our standard overview. And what we have are three circles. And let's see, we triangulate 2 times in this video. Once for the influence, that's this chart. And then later on, the most important slide in triangulation, in my opinion, is the solution, like how to behave to best counter or use this energy, how best to use this energy behaviorally to maximize your success this week. So first, it's important to know what to expect to feel, because from there you can better expect people's behaviors, because every behavior has an emotional or discomfort sort of origin. So something within, and that within is a tuning fork to the energies out here. So with this slide, you can start to see kind of what to expect at a big picture from the energies. And here we go. The I-Ching says following, and that's hexagram 17. And because we want to place these in a chart, in a diagram, I think this is called a Gantt, we're putting it right in the middle, because right in the middle is Sun and Jupiter going perfectly conjunct this week, getting stronger and stronger throughout the week. And also they are parallel, and I'll describe that, but it's extra intense. It's intense already. Sun conjunct Jupiter, very intense energy in Aries, but they're also parallel. So it intensifies an already intense alignment. So we'll go through that, and that's kind of producing all sorts of effects there that we will go through, but it definitely has something to do with this following thing from the I-Ching, as I'll demonstrate when we look at the I-Ching more in depth. But we also have Venus over here in the astrology that is having a lot of changes. Pluto has an effect, Uranus has an effect, and Saturn has an effect. On top of that, Venus is switching signs during this week and early on, going into Gemini. So a lot of disruption in this, and a lot of transformative alignments with these other planets. So we're going to go through that. What that means is, as far as relating and harmony is one of the things that Venus represents. It's difficult. There's a lot of adapting that has to be done. And, frankly, especially the people who aren't paying attention with what's going on, this is really going to be disruptive. And so togetherness is difficult, but in that same vein, especially as ego expands with Sun and Jupiter, we're expecting some switches in alliances. We are expecting people wanting a leader to emerge. We're having leaders naturally emerging. We're having false leaders naturally emerging, wanting to be followed. So we have all this stuff that perfectly matches the I-Ching. And then the Dreambot, which I had to fix last night, and I was happy to do it, because I was worried that some dysfunctional things was happening and morphing, because I could see that. For example, we're having the same Dreambot run as last week. Everything's identical. So I knew when I was running the Dreambot that it was false hits. So I went through, sure enough, all the equations in the algorithm were just slightly off. And that slightly off just meant everything. So I cured everything, took a new snapshot in Excel. It's all healthy. And what came out of it was massive war prep. We'll go through that. But at the same time, it had Jupiter and Sun in there with very positive vibes, and that is going to be a thing. You're going to be very positive vibes with Sun and Jupiter, very kind of like disrupting trust in other people kind of a thing with Venus. And then there's a waning gibbous moon. So it's kind of like hands off the wheel. It's like, all right, finish up all your crafts and your projects. It's time to start laying low and relaxing, and you can keep doing stuff, but maybe just smaller stuff, smaller, just mundane kind of things for this time period in the moon post full moon. How was everybody's full moon? Well, for me, it hasn't happened yet. And I don't know when you're going to see this. It might be after the full moon, but it's already having effect on my sleep. No surprise there. But like an all-time low in the amount of deep sleep that I had, which is not a good thing. But I don't feel it today, so I feel like I have pretty good energy. All right, let's get back to our influence overview. Overall, we have a humongous, very tight congruency. Everything is perfectly overlapped. The Dreambot is focusing on Sun, Jupiter, and the Venus woes, and so is the I-Ching 17. They're basically just flipped. They're mirror images of each other, and it's a perfect match to the dominant energies in the astrology. Why is it called Red Rover, Red Rover? That's the energy of this triangulation, because it includes Sun and Jupiter. So you have kind of some egos rising. We have a self-defense kind of a theme that's possible with Sun and Jupiter, kind of because it's in Aries. It's a kind of a warrior, the rise of the ego. Ego, what's he concerned about, or she? They're concerned about survival, self-preservation. So that's going to be one of the things. And you're going to see that it's best very quickly. You're going to see that it's best for ego to align and have strong alliances. Hence, Red Rover, Red Rover. But in addition, Venus is disrupted. And so this trust thing is kind of hard. And harmony is kind of hard. Peace is hard or difficult, or it's not difficult, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to be adapting to the energy changes in order to get it. Right. So that makes things hard. And I think alliances are starting to rise this week. And that's this Red Rover, Red Rover. And what happens there is you say, Red Rover, bring Charlie right over. And Charlie then will have to de-link from that side and try to run as hard and as powerful to the other side and break the links. So people on the other side are holding hands. Right. And the harder and the stronger they are, if Charlie can't break through that line, then they have to join that other group. And I just think this exchange, but the egoism, the competition is there this week energetically, the challenge, but also the changing of the alliances is here as well. There's a lot to consider, and I think it's going to be one of the longer CIRF reports because of it, but let's go ahead and get started. And thank you, everybody, for your participation in the comments and shares. And thank you for all the new subscribers. And welcome to the National Dream Center channel. We have a winner of the best comment. And so that shout out goes to Scorpbrat 05, which I think is normally over on Rumble, but made a comment and happens to win the best comment of the week. I've been called worse. I'll take nutty as a compliment. And what Scorpio Brat is Scorp Brat. Sorry, not Scorpio. What they're referring to is a comment a couple weeks ago about how nutty we are over here. And so all you new people just realize this is nutty stuff and it's crazy times. And I think this community does it best. I think we're the most aware of what's really happening. Tie for second place. Shout outs to Together We Are Wand. What a great handle name. And G Gift. Both of them tied for second. So shout out and keep the comments coming. Guys did a great job over on YouTube, and it's making a difference on the algorithm. Thank you. All right, here's our overview, and we know there's big things coming later in April. These are outside of our CIRF week, so in the next CIRF report, we will talk about the full moon or the solar eclipse, new moon in Aries. The second new moon in Aries happens to be a total solar eclipse, but in a row. We had 2 new moons in Aries in a row, and that's unusual. I mean, it happens, but unusual, pretty cool. And then the second one, Quaboom, is a 6-month stint of eclipse energy. Context for the next 6 months is Aries. So it's a short 30-day cycle for Aries again, but it's also a long Aries cycle, 6-month cycle for Aries. All right, enough of that. We'll talk more about that next time. This week, in between our black vertical lines here, the main thing I want you to pull out from this slide, this is a topographical representation of Sun conjunct Jupiter. So that on the 11th, it goes perfect, exact. Now, there's another thing happening with Sun and Jupiter, and they are parallel, meaning they have the same inclination within 17 minutes. There's 17 again. There's a lot of 17s today. And so what that means is extra intense. So not only are they on the same azimuth that's up here, they're also on the same vertical component, the inclination. And so extra intense. Jupiter representing expansiveness, wisdom, positive, excess, that kind of context. And the Sun obviously more like ego and identity in Aries. So the other big energy is Venus, but this is just one of many things. She is moving into Gemini. And so this gets a lot more logical relationships. This is a mediation kind of a move for Venus, which is probably good. We're going to really need this because there's some other challenging aspects that Venus has that I'm going to describe in a different diagram. These day-to-day diagrams are better. And not all of them are up on our first day for Venus, but here we go, day by day. We're going to talk about 6 of these days, and there's a lot to it. This is a complex mess, and that's why I think putting it all together sums up to, in my opinion, Red Rover. Maybe not perfectly, but the concepts inside of that game are really at a height this week. Let's start with what I think is the dominant energy for the week is Jupiter. Well, actually, for the first part, you have the remnants of the full moon, still technically within that 24 hours of the full moon on Thursday the 6th. But with that, that was in Libra, and a justice-filled, unpredictable, energy. Justice is kind of the main thing that everyone is talking about, one way or the other. Both sides, or there's more than 2 sides, but justice is kind of the overlap between everybody's perceptions, in my opinion. But growing right now, Jupiter and Sun in Aries, they're about 4 degrees apart, and so pretty intense already. And they are already considered within 17 minutes of inclination. So already the intensity is high and will get even higher with a closening of azimuth and a closening of inclination. And that will be, I think, the 8th. So in a couple days here. So this is the leader archetype, especially in Aries, the fire. I know what I want. And I can be intensely egoic. I can be very optimistic. I have intensifying wisdom, particularly about self-wisdom. I might have excessive impulsive egoism. That's Sun in Aries, very impulsive, or can be. Here's another interesting archetype interpretation with Sun and Jupiter is urges for service to self is at high opportunity here. We can see kind of an overconfidence as well. We're going to talk about some more of these archetypes as we go along so that you don't have to memorize them all here. This happens to increase all week. Whatever we're talking about these archetypes for and interpreting this alignment will be good for all week. And then Venus is just got some drama here. So she just finished. This is pretty much the finish of a conjunction with Uranus. So last week's is kind of coming off some changes there, some insights possibly. But luckily things were slow with Taurus, slowed things down with relationships. So it had kind of a moderating effect. These changes aren't fast like they normally are with Uranus. Slow changes may not even have seen them, but they're there. Now we also have Venus starting a trine with Pluto. We'll talk about that in the ensuing days. And that is tumultuous, or can be kind of a death rebirth cycle for relationships, peace, everything Venus, beauty, art, creativity, harmony. And then there's going to be a square. It's not quite there yet with Saturn. So we'll talk about that when it happens. It's kind of a last of the Mars being limited by Saturn in water, although Mars still in a fall, which just makes things heavier and harder to get things done. It's been a really hard week, a couple of weeks for getting things done. Just even though the moon has been in that cycle of yang, you didn't have the participating necessary component of Mars in full support, full alliance, either by way of a maleficent alignment and square or by falling into Cancer. So that's still difficult, but improving because of this trine is on the waning side of it. So it's starting to decay, is indicated by the dashed line there. And we start our waning gibbous, which means the moon phase, the lunar phase is start completing the bigger projects or start planning a pause in those projects. As we get closer to, by the end of this week, we will be very close to the last quarter moon, which is going to be just like, let's put everything on pause and relax as best we can. But this week you can kind of finish things up slowly. If Mars is in fall and everything's just harder, then concentrate on the smaller projects. But finish what you can. All right, Friday the 7th, we're 3 degrees away from the Sun and Jupiter, obviously still parallel. We also have the Venus with a sextile over to Neptune. So this is an opportunity to manifest peace from imagination. So you can imagine it, and that is the necessary part of manifesting. Manifesting isn't just make it appear. You have to actually envision it first. So that's your opportunity, is being able to envision things about Venus that Venus is good for. But at the same time of that opportunity that begins, Venus starts a square over to Saturn. So there's this pressure of limitation and hardship on relationship. And we'll talk about it here as we go along because it only gets stronger. Now, this is the day, this is Saturday the 8th, and this is the day where the parallel perfects. So they're exactly at the same inclination, Sun and Jupiter, even though they're still 2-ish degrees away azimuth-wise, they perfect on the inclination. So very, very, very intense. Small amount of azimuth, but on the same parallel. This is a big, intense alignment already. So this is the dominant energy here is Sun and Jupiter. But again, Venus has its woes. Moon now in Scorpio and a waning gibbous still. So more water and kind of reflecting on the past. This could be nostalgia. So now your time probably just kind of reflecting, relaxing, but still finishing things, still finishing some projects. That'll change once Moon gets into Sagittarius for a little bit more fire to finish those knickknacks. All right, Sunday the 9th, we're at 2 degrees azimuth. We still have Sun parallel Jupiter, but not precise, but still intense. Still within 17 minutes. A T-square on Saturn, one of those points is the relationship Venus, but the other point is now the moon in the waning gibbous moon in Sagittarius. So now kind of this energy shifts to more of a suddenly like, now I want to get some stuff done, or I have to because everything feels limited with a fire moon. Everything holding me back. That's kind of a Sagittarian. A moon in Sagittarius is, why is everything holding me back? Can't everybody leave me alone? Just cut everybody off and go. It's a kind of a detachment alignment, especially with Saturn. Limit of freedom is kind of there with this square here. So feeling a little bit trapped, but remember T-squares kind of trap you in. And so one of the things you can do is hop over to the other side of the zodiac, is what some people do for T-squares. Instead of staying here trying to struggle with Saturn and feeling limited, feeling challenged. Why does this always happen to me? Complaining in the Pisces manner with your Saturn there, that's a trap. So when you notice that about yourself, you can become your own observer and then hop over to Virgo, and you still have some time with the moon in its phase to have just a small practical set of things, mundane things to do, and just get it done. And that's the Virgo way, right? Just practically. And you don't have to should yourself. You don't have to mandate for yourself and overtask yourself. That's not what we're doing. We're just trying to get you out of the skies falling energy of Saturn and Pisces in a T-square. And not every challenge has to be conquered, right? Just because you're challenged with it doesn't mean that you have to honor it. That can be debated on a kind of a karmic level, on a soul level. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about day to day. This is a slow, temporary alignment, T-square on Saturn. Suddenly, when hardship shows up, you just kind of be victimized by it. That's the energy of this. Don't bite off on it. Not that you have to avoid everything either. That's the extreme opposite, but on the same continuum of Saturn in Pisces, let's not do that. Don't get trapped and don't escape. These are two hard suggestions that are very difficult to do, to carry out as it's happening. So be prepared for this, especially on Sunday the 9th. On Monday, the 10th, this is when Venus goes into Gemini at 11:47 p.m., so almost midnight on April 10th, the night of April 10th, daylight savings time, central time. So peace through logic and reason. So very negotiative, very mediation kind of alignment. But there's more. We also become more adaptable because Gemini is a mutable sign. Gemini and Mercury are meant to adapt and carry lots of little projects and really just bounce between things. They do well with spinning plates, lots of them. So relationships will have the benefit of being adaptable, like I said, but because that's needed when we have these alignments, especially with Pluto and Saturn at the same time, and Neptune. It's going to be a lot. Going to need it for the challenges with Saturn, Pluto, and in conjunct. So look at this. Remember so Venus is trine to Pluto, and this pretty much goes exact earlier, a little earlier than 11:47 p.m. on April 10th. Just before that, Venus is after that. So now it's, okay, disregard. So the next day, April 11th, wee hours of the morning, Venus is going to make a perfect trine over to Pluto. And at the same time, Venus is going to be within 17 minutes of a contraparallel. This makes it much more conflicted. So now Venus is easily going through a transformation because it's a trine. It makes this energy easy. Or we have power and control issues now with relationships. And it's conflicted because it's contraparallel, exactly within 17 minutes of each other on the opposite end of the inclination. So now extra conflicted. And so it's ironic. You have a trine, but yet it's conflicted. Yep, that makes sense. It's easy to go through upheaval with Pluto trine Venus. Venus is changing signs, so there's an adaptation there. It's challenging, and it's challenging because it's conflicted. All right. So now relationships, this is why I'm saying that I'm expecting relationships of all kind, and we can be talking about countries' relationships. We can be talking about an intrafamilial relationships, loving relationships, parental relationships, friendships, anything having to do with other people is going to be very disruptive this week and conflicted. And that's why almost in a grass is greener approach to sociology, you're going to see people changing alliances potentially throughout this adaptation process. Why? Well, because ego is getting stronger, expansive. And so it's self-preservation. I'm going to defend myself by aligning with people who seem to be, or I perceive to be, stronger, more adaptable, more powerful. And that's why also people are going to be looking for the follower leader thing. Leaders are going to be rising in this. So it's all related together with kind of the disruption in relationship, disruption in your current alliances, and then the rise of ego and the expansive ego. This is almost a perfection. That'll be the next day. So April 11th, here's where we have the dominant energy of the week. Sun conjunct Jupiter. This is an intense sense of expansiveness versus going too far. So errors of overconfidence. According to the I-Ching, you're going to see this is a great time to give or receive advice. And that goes along with the following the I-Ching 17. But it's also very appropriate to this leadership alignment. This is a leadership role, Sun and Jupiter together, especially in Aries. Not afraid to speak your mind, not afraid to draw your boundaries and establish boundaries, self-preserve, but you can get overconfident. And that's not that all leaders are overconfident, but this is where you get false leaders. You get overconfident because Jupiter also represents excess. So we can get excessively egotistical. And especially if we have self-preservation problems with Venus in turmoil, and ego senses that unsafety is going to rise up. All right. So we're going to see some leaders and followers, and you're going to see changes in alliances. Incidentally, the Sun conjunct Jupiter happens at 5:07 p.m. daylight savings time, central time zone. And Sun and Jupiter still are within 17 minutes of intensification of inclination. All right, we have... Okay, so I wanted to point out, I already pointed this out yesterday, but just to summarize here, Venus trine Pluto is easy to feel turmoil, easy to feel defeated, easy to feel the controlling and power struggles in a relationship, and feel that rebirth. But there's also that Venus in conjunct Pluto, which intensifies the conflict there. So yeah, you're going through a transformation in relationship, but it's conflicted. Meanwhile, ego is expanding. Wednesday, the 12th, Sun is past Jupiter now, but still within that conjunction. It has officially lost the parallel. So that no longer is as intense. And then now Sun starts a square over to Pluto. So we'll look at that deeply. This is too early to really pay attention to that too much, but it's a heads up for the next CIRF week. And then we have Venus, still a hard aspect over to Saturn. This is the pressure to limit relationship. This is to move through challenges. It really adds to the conflict and transformation and power struggle that Pluto's offering over to Venus. These are going to work hand in hand, and it's almost like you're going to be wanting to go off on your own. For some of us, will be just leave me alone. This, for example, like an Aquarian will just say, you know what, just let me do my own thing, because of ego is exaggerated and overconfident, or potentially overconfident, but extra confident, but can be overly optimistic about their ego, can be too positive. Yes, you can be too positive, and that's the opportunity that you have here. Stay balanced with ego. All right, let's get into the I-Ching. It says hexagram 17 following: choosing to follow good influences brings supreme success. And with everybody kind of scared about the relationships or going through upheaval, having to adapt, maybe losing trust, this is why you're going to see the need to stay with some form of social contact, tribal contact. In the affairs of humanity, change is constant. Old ideas are discarded in favor of new ones. A great leader can emerge only by adaptable to the demands of the times, only by being adaptable. In line 6, it may be time to seek the counsel of someone wiser or more experienced than you are. That would be very hard for Sun and Jupiter, but it is in the continuum of this energy. Some of you will naturally, without me telling you, just naturally ask for help. And that's a very wise person. And for most of us, we'll have people asking us for advice. And the key is, don't ask someone that is not wiser or has more experience. You need to get someone who is wiser and has been there before to ask. Be receptive to advice from a person you respect and make the proper adjustments. So even if you're not asking for help, be open-minded about people who have suggestions for you. This is the energy that is becoming prominent. If he or she agrees to work actively on behalf of your cause or enterprise, supreme good fortune will result. So it is about connection, folks. And here are the two energies together. The red is Sun conjunct and parallel to Jupiter. You have, this is where they go perfect with the parallel, and then dips just a little bit as the azimuth catches up, and then goes super intense on Tuesday. That's the red. And then, of course, Venus underneath this, the blue lines just have a lot of alignments, and this is where she shifts into Gemini. So it's just changes, challenges, with some opportunistic daydreaming. So that just can really disturb people too. Daydreams aren't just always positive. So woes, Venus woes. She just gonna have a hard week this week, but not, in my opinion, not as strong as Sun conjunct Jupiter. All right, let's go summarize. Let's go summarize the influence for you so we can shift over to the solution. All right, here's the overall influence. You can see Red Rover. Apparently these were the champions of some year. I think maybe this year, 2023. I don't know. But you have to be strong. You have to be strongly allied. You basically have physically strong arms and hands, and strong enough to prevent people from breaking through there. All right, more big energies continue this week. Sun conjunct Jupiter is the leader archetype and expands wisdom and self-identity. Just watch out for unconsciously taking this too far into overconfidence. Massive changes for Venus from all angles. Relationships get shaken, changed, overhauled, and challenged. People may be scampering for a strong leader and better alliances. I think that last one sums it up for the whole week. People may be scampering for a strong leader and better alliances. Hexagram 17 is the influence I-Ching. All right. Now, you ready for the solution? I am. And I hate when my software does that. Now I have to go find it again. Transition to the solution. We're going to start with the I-Ching, because from this I-Ching, we had to put in a change line, line 6. So line 6 is the top line changed to a yang, and that makes hexagram 25, innocence. Innocence implies a natural harmlessness and openness and pure intentions, unsullied by ulterior motives. The condition of innocence has less to do with age than with attitude. Innocence springs from a heart that remains open to joy and wonder. The hallmark of innocence is a willingness to treat all creatures with compassion and respect. That word compassion is going to show up in another technology. Be wary of courses of action that require too much cleverness. And those are going to be in the Venus area. So relationships, don't be clever in relationships. Just stay with facts. Stay with what's right for you. Stay with your ideals. Stay with your values. When you find yourself being clever in terms of relationships, you're probably in a power struggle, probably in upheaval, and best to just take a time out. All right. This is the perfection of Sun and Jupiter in a conjunction. That happened on the 11th at 5:07 p.m. Tuesday, and that put us in hexagram 42 of the Rave mandala, and it gives us Sidereal Pisces. Again, this is for our solution triangulation. So the Rave says gate 42, it's increase, and that's a perfect match to Sun and Jupiter. Even though we're not talking about influence, it's neat when these overlap. The expansion of the resources which maximize the development of full potential. That's like an exact replica of Sun and Jupiter conjunct and parallel, remember. Well, line 2 is identification, and it's the recognition and acute capitalization of trends. Power for growth through participation in trends. Power for growth through participation in trends. There's a lot of trends today, and it's getting much more defined. In fact, one of the other things I wanted to say, another parallel to Red Rover, is that we're going to be almost forced to, or influenced by the influence. Again, we're not talking about the influence right now. We're kind of in the solution, but I forgot to mention it. I think you're going to have people perceiving that they're forced to pick a side. And we're like in this week, or maybe the follow-on week, I don't know, but this CIRF week, it feels like you're forced to pick a side. And with our, especially our Pisces solution, I think that's counterproductive. I think they want you, especially with the divide and conquer happening, been much more virulent recently. I think that's the trick, to pick a side. And then they gotcha. They got us eating each other alive. Don't do it. All right. And on the downside to this, sorry for that little rabbit trail. On the downside to our rave, it says growth, which stops in reaction to trends or change. Okay. Well, we'll talk more about that so I can explain it a little bit more later. But now, here's our solution. Right on. Let's get it all in the window. And by the way, I want a little shout out to intervention. What is intervention? It's the ascension to inner peace. So if you're interested in that, go to intervention.com. We'll help you out. All right. This is a very wordy slide. But what we have is the triangulation is on the right side. The I-Ching 25 says innocence, foster openness and purify your intentions, treat everyone with compassion. The rave, we just got done with that. Remember, increase, expansion of the resources that maximize the development of full potential. And we have Pisces. There's compassion again. Pisces is the compassionate zodiacal sign. So let's put them all together, and here we go. The solution triangulation is a natural extension of the 17 influence. As a brief but powerfully expansive period with Sun and Jupiter, it is crucial that you purify your intentions by releasing any service to self, egoic attachments. Ensure your intentions mirror the highest forms of your consciousness and match your highest ideals. Showing compassion is an obvious overlapping behavior, and heeding this suggestion will keep ego from gaining too much dominance, overconfidence, and extreme service to self. Pause. It's very important for you guys to know that ego is not the bad guy or the bad girl in all this. We need ego. We need the physical frame to get our soul work done in this lifetime, to fulfill our life purpose. So not getting rid of ego. We're just making sure we don't have ego in charge of the cart, right? You rein up ego, kind of like a horse, where you put a saddle on it and you sit on it. Yourself, your highest self, your awareness, your soul is sitting on top of the saddle and guiding the ego. All right. That's what you're conceiving this week. You're going to feel an expansive ego, right? And we talked about all those things that could feel like. One of the downsides is you're going to get ego is no longer under your reign and just goes wild, gets impulsive and gets overconfident, starts warring with people, or just not good. So the rave suggests that growth either happens or is stalled based on your reasons for participation. Now, this is the space, this is the area, the rave the Pisces, pretty much kind of go back to the Red Rover thing. So we're looking at the reasons for your participation. And, if you got guilt tripped into playing Red Rover, you don't really even want to play, you're probably not going to be quite as strong as you would have if you were really intensely wanting to be part of that team. And so you are participating in something right now. So check out your reasons for participating. And this will determine if your participation isn't right, maybe the way that you're participating, or has too much egoic influence. In other words, the ego is in charge. Then growth will stop. Growth of what? Growth of everything in your life will stop, especially growth of alliances, growth in Venus kind of things, love, affection, romance, connection. I already said that. Harmony, mediation, art, beauty, all that will stop. This is a very spiritual time, so use the Pisces archetype to tidy up your spiritual routine. There are several spiritual signs in the zodiac, but Pisces has to be at the top, of compassionate. I would watch out for too idealistic as well. If you're going to, since I'm recommending using the Pisces archetype for the sidereal, you're going to see these other things crop up too when you use it. Idealistic, connected is good. This will feed the need to, when your relationship is being disrupted, is to switch sides or switch over, find an alliance, find the leader. It's this discomfort of being alone and lacking self-preservation that will cause that. So stay connected, at least mentally, spiritually. All right. The statement that I plan on using is, I am a spiritual being living a human experience. I am here to make this beautiful earth a better place. And I actually wrote all these words, what I do with the new technology I have here with runes. I do all the analysis. I do all the triangulation in words first. So I had this statement and then read about Manas. That's the rune that you see there. And let me show you a little bit about, and because this is new, what I'm doing, and I did it for the first time last week, is wore the rune in my beard. And it reminded me, that energy, and reminded me to, last week, was go deep in this, do the soul work, but live from the heart, live within that depth all week long, intuition. And it really did help a lot. So I'm hoping that this process really helps you as well. But if not, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep talking about the rune because it helps me. So in addition to emphasizing the inner self, Manas also symbolizes assistance from others. Isn't that crazy? Its shape evokes a sense of mutual support on two individuals coming together to stabilize each other, creating a stronger structure as a result. This is amazing. The Red Rover was done hours before the rune search was ever started. So this is insane that the rune was basically also the influence. It's all interrelated. You may be on the receiving end of assistance from someone else or asked to lend support to a common cause. Be sure to remain open to help from others at this time and willing to lend a hand where needed. Independence and self-reliance are important attributes, but ultimately, humans need each other in order to reach their full potential. So, the Manas rune is telling us, a full circle on this CIRF report, going right back to the original screen. Red Rover is honoring that inter exchange with other humans for better alliances, for ego, self-preservation, not dominance. If you need to lead, then lead. If the group needs to be led and you're called to lead, then lead. That's this energy. That's Manas. That's Red Rover. That's Venus going through this transformation. This is Sun and Jupiter together. It's all related. So, Manas. And that's what I'm going to be starting tomorrow, putting into my beard for the week. All right, everybody. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you have a blessed week. And for those of you who are watching today, have a great full moon tonight. This is still that current, still last week's CIRF report. CIRF week is finished up tonight at 11:30ish. A full moon in Libra. So the height, the climax of justice and balance are imminent. And probably all of you having an effect on your sleep quality. This goes to show, they say that in full moons you have less sleep, and it's a significant amount. And what's interesting is that's exactly what happened. I had less deep sleep. I had less sleep overall, but I feel the same. I feel energized. It's not like I feel deficient on sleep. So crazy stuff, but crazy times. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Love to all. Namaste.